Hi everyone, this is Jenny, and in today's video we are going to look at the Apple Watch Series 6. As a non-smartwatch wearer and lover of watches, I'm giving you an Apple Watch Series 6 review from a non-smartwatch wearer, non-tech person perspective that is meant to do two things. First, I want to give you a first-hand impression what it feels like to use a smartwatch the first time, and also as someone who usually only wears mechanical watches. And secondly, I want to let you know how exactly the watch wears and how I use it every day, what I liked and what I dislike about it. So let's get started. So for those of you who know me, know that I usually do not review smartwatches, and I even said in one of my Q&As that I would never own a luxury smartwatch. So you might ask yourself, what the hell am I doing with this Apple Watch here, right? Well, let me first say that I do not think this is a luxury smartwatch. Apple has never been known for manufacturing luxury watches, but smartwatches. So this for me is not really a watch anyways. I think the better word for it is an iPhone accessory, but since it's been worn on the wrist, I think it's only fair to take a closer look at what seems to rival our beloved classic wristwatches and see what it can do for us. So I've been wearing this smartwatch for the past 2 weeks, having it glued to my wrist pretty much 24/7. And so in this review, I want to tell you everything you need to know about the Apple Watch Series 6, no matter if that's your first or your next smartwatch. So let's start with what we can see. With the Series 6, you can choose between two sizes, the 40mm and the 44mm, which you can see right here. Though it's up to personal preference, I recommend the 40mm for all wrist circumferences below 170mm if you do not want your Apple Watch to stand out too much on your wrist. But in comparison to mechanical watches, for everyone above the 170mm, I would definitely recommend going for the bigger size. As always, Apple provides a great variety of case materials and straps, and with this one I went for a very classic and understated look with the black aluminum, though I really like that it is made from recycled alu, so I don't have to feel like that big of an ass when wearing this one. And so for those who like it a bit more fancy, there's also a stainless steel or a titanium option, but those are more expensive compared to the alu, starting from around $749 for the black stainless steel, up to $849 for the white titanium version, for example. Apple has also introduced a new type of bracelet or strap that is called the Solo Loop, which has no clasp but is stretchy enough for you to slide over your wrist. In hindsight, I think I'd rather go for the braided Solo Loop instead of the black sports band that I have now, given how I am using my Apple Watch, but we'll get to that in a bit. So as this is my first Apple Watch ever, all things on here feel brand new to me, but let me give you a quick rundown of the main updates that set the Series 6 apart from its predecessors. Given all of these updates, I think Apple really made sure that everyone knows that this is not for entertainment only, but a device that supports a healthier life, or at least tries to encourage one. And if I'm being honest here, they totally got me with their marketing. I already kind of felt like 10 times more healthy just by putting this on. The new feature that gets talked about the most is probably the blood oxygen sensor. So the sensor on the bottom of your watch is fitted with 4 LED clusters and 4 photodiodes. When activated, it shines light onto the blood vessels in your wrist, and the photodiodes measure the amount of light that is reflected back. That way it can measure your blood oxygen and give you a feedback on it within 15 seconds. Another cool thing is the ECG app. With the Series 6, you can create an ECG similar to a single lad electrodiagram. By attaching the crown on your Apple Watch, it generates an ECG waveform in 30 seconds, giving you information on the form of rhythm afterwards. It obviously does not replace a doctor, but I like that I can, visualize my heartbeat, and if I wanted to, I could export my results as a PDF and send it to my doctor, as my watch keeps track of all of my ECGs throughout the day. Though the first two features feel more like a cool gimmick, it's the sleep app I really find useful. You can set your regular sleep time, defining when you want to go to bed and, of course, when you want to wake up again. Apple has also added the constant on altimeter that is supposed to help you track your workouts even better, to make sure that you record and register every bit of change in elevations. Since I'm not really into hiking or exploring caves, I haven't tested it yet, but it's definitely a neat addition, I would say. As I've mentioned, all the apps and functions on the watch are new to me, since this is my first time owning an Apple Watch. So at first I felt quite overwhelmed with all the things you can set and track and record. or do on this watch. So now that it has been 2 weeks with this Apple Watch on my wrist, I have started to get the hang of it, and there has been a couple of apps and functions on here that I use either once or multiple times a day. So let me now tell you what I actually use the Apple Watch for on a day-to-day basis. Like I said, it's great to track sleep and remind you of your planned sleeping schedule. So every night at 11 p.m. I get a little notification reminding me that it is a time to go to bed. And it's not that I immediately, drop everything and go straight to bed, but it has helped me to keep track of time in the evening and maybe not start to watch another episode on Netflix, but rather go to sleep. I'm also really happy with the way it wakes me up in the morning. I've set the alarm to a sound plus vibration, and it's way nicer than getting startled awake by my iPhone alarm every morning. It basically just, taps you awake on your wrist, and I didn't expect it to like it that much. Oh, and for those who might wonder, I do sleep with the Apple Watch on, and so far it doesn't bother me that much. It felt a bit weird the first nights, but I quickly got used to it. So during the day, I mainly use my Apple Watch for two things. First, for tracking an activity, and second, to use it as a substitute to my iPhone so I don't have to carry, both things with me all the time. And I'm sure at this point, many want to know how the battery of the Apple Watch is performing. Well, so far it has not died on me once. It also never came even close to it, which I credit to the super fast charging time and the overall battery life in general. I usually charge my Apple Watch while I'm showering and right before going to bed for about 20 to 30 minutes, and it lasts for me well into the next time I put it down to charge. But let's look a bit more into the gimmicky part of the tracking abilities. As you've heard before, this is more like a wellness device, something to encourage a healthier lifestyle, and in no way should this be seen as a medical or diagnostic device. But if you're like me and you like to quantify things and put numbers to things, you will love this. I regularly check my heart rate, my ECG, and my blood oxygen. Not necessarily because I have something wrong with me and I want to stay on track, but rather because I find those things interesting, and it's cool to see your statistics through the day, because this Apple Watch keeps reading your stats throughout, so you do not have to do it manually every time you want to see results. I also try to hit my fitness goals that I have set myself when setting up my Apple Watch. So throughout the day, I check in to see whether or not I need to stand up more often or do some more steps. Because what I also really like is the fact that your watch reminds you to stand up when it detects that you have been sitting around for too long. And for someone who sits at a desk for 7+ hours a day, it's really nice to have something that reminds you to stand up every now and then. I also started to track my workouts with it, and I really like that you can choose between so many specific types of workouts and sports, but it's a bit of a bummer that you can't go back to a certain workout and compare stats or something. So when you're done, it just simply goes back to the main screen, but counts your workout minutes and heart rate into your overall health report for that day. What also came in very handy this past 2 weeks was the walkie-talkie option. Though this is not new, I was still positively surprised about how many times I was actually using it. My husband also owns an Apple Watch, and it's super convenient if you want to, just quickly check in with the other person. For example, when you're out shopping and you want to know whether the other person needs something or not. It's obviously also cool to see who texted you or who's calling without having to look at your phone, but I would say that this is something I would look at anyway throughout the day. So now that you know what's new and what I use it for, I want to give you a quick overview of the general things I really like about it, but also the issues I have with this watch. So let's first start out with what I like. So I really like all of the health tracking apps. I love keeping track of everything, and it's cool to see the entire statistic. Setting it up was also pretty easy, though I have never done it before, and I'm really in love with all the watch faces you can choose from. I probably spend about 5 minutes just scrolling through the options and trying to decide which I like best. It's also been great for helping me with reducing the time I spend on my actual phone, because way too often I catch myself scrolling through Instagram or Facebook, even though I should be working, simply because my phone is next to me on my desk. But now I've tried leaving my phone in the car or in my bag, because people can still reach me on my watch in case they want to call or text me. Which leads me to another point that is somewhat of a pro, but also a con in my opinion. Like I said, I can leave my phone in the car or at home, but people can still reach me on my watch. But that that's only because I went for the GPS plus cellular option, which is arguably more practical but also more expensive. I mean, I still have my phone with me most of the time anyway, so my watch is connected to it, but it's also still nice to know that I can actually really leave it at home and be good without having to worry about availability. Plus, it's obviously super convenient when going for a run, so you don't have to carry your phone with you because you also have your music with you too. It's really a question of whether or not you want to spend the extra money on it or not, but I wish it wasn't that big of a difference. As for example, in my configuration, it's a difference of $100 as the GPS only version costs about $399 and the GPS plus cellular is setting you back $499. What's also worth mentioning is that not all telephone companies and their networks are compatible with the Apple Watch, so make sure to check for that beforehand. Okay, but now let's look into what I didn't like about the Apple Watch. So I wouldn't say that I have weird fingers or overly big fingertips, but I find navigating with my fingers sometimes quite frustrating. For example, when you want to close an app, when pressing the button on the side, I mostly have to do a double tap so it recognizes my fingers. What's also really frustrating is that the finger swipe sometimes does not get recognized properly and I end up doing something I wasn't planning on. Like I have mentioned in the beginning, I would rather go for the braided solo loop instead of the rubber band simply because I do not like how it feels when I sweat or, wash my hands when wearing the rubber band. I was also surprised to learn that the battery life isn't that long. I know I've said that it charges super fast in the beginning, but the first time with an Apple Watch and from my experience with other fitness trackers in comparison, I expected a bit more in that department. But with this one, you have to make do with about 24 hours if you have it in standby before you have to charge it again. So here you have it, a 100% practical review of 2 weeks of wearing an Apple Watch. You now know what's new, what to like, and what to look out for before buying it. As a lover of all things mechanical when it comes to wristwatches, I do not feel as the Apple Watch sits somewhere in the same category. This is not a watch to me. It's an addition to my iPhone, a fitness and a health tracker, a tool and a wellness device. It helps with making things a little bit easier throughout the day, and it's really more of a fun gadget than a serious device, I would say. But I have to say that after wearing it for 2 weeks, I really do feel a bit better about my health. Well, let's rather say the level of activity. I just really like knowing what's up. I guess knowledge really is power, and knowing about my heart rate and how many steps I've made per day is giving me a good feeling about myself. After all, my left wrist is still reserved for my mechanical watches only, but I do not see any issue with wearing my Apple Watch on my other wrist at the same time. That being said, I don't think one immediately has to jump to the Series 6 in case they want to try out a smartwatch. From what I could gather online, the updates and changes are just minor, and right now you can get all kinds of Apple Watches for significantly less. I guess the USP here is that it's A, new, and B, more colorful if that's what you like. I am wearing both watches for completely different reasons, all of them completely valid to me, but what about you? Are you wearing 2 watches at the same time too? As someone who loves traditional wristwatches, do you see the Apple Watch as a competitor to the hobby, or are these things completely separate for you? As always, let me know what you think in the comments down below. And that was it for this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more videos of me, I recommend subscribing to this channel. I would also like to know whether or not you want to see more videos like that, branching out a bit more. And in case you enjoyed it, what specifically you would like to see more of. And that was it. Thank you for watching, and you will see me in my next one. Bye.